Alright guys, welcome back to another 117 Industries video. If you guys are listening on our podcast, welcome to that as well. If you guys are watching us on 117 Industries, we have a podcast called Master and Apprentice Podcast on all platforms. We put all kinds of cool podcasts on there. But as you guys can see from the title and thumbnail, we're going to be going over the next novel, The Flood by William C. Dietz. This is a classic novel. Part of the first three trilogy, right? You have The Flood, which kind of goes over Halo CE. Then you have First Strike, which is like the direct sequel after CE. And then you have The Fall of Reach, which we already reviewed, which is like the prequel to CE. And so they all work pretty well together because their stories are congruent. The Flood, I think, is, again, a really strong, I wouldn't say adaptation. I don't even really know what the best word is. It's obviously going over the story of Halo CE, right? If you've played the first game of Halo CE, everyone's really familiar with that story. It's pretty basic. But there's a lot of behind the scenes of how how Master Chief gets placed to place, how Johnson shows up with a bunch of Marines, how they get placed to place, you know, how the Marines are able to kind of start gathering numbers. Like, all these things kind of happen, and you don't ask too many questions, but I'm sure some people thought, how did this happen, right? And this novel does a really good job explaining of how the Marines kind of formed up on a mountain and formed a base in a Forerunner facility. Well, I don't know if it's a facility, but a little Forerunner area, right? And the stories of the Covenant, because the Covenant are also not from the Halo ring. Like, they showed up around the same time Master Chief did. So you get to see from their point of view, right? There's a specific elite and grunt, can't remember the name off the top of my head, I'm sure it's on screen, but you get to follow their story as well and kind of see the chain of command and see them hunting down Master Chief. It's very, very cool. You know, especially for that era, we didn't really get to see the point of view of the Covenant at all until Halo 2 with the Arbiter. So this was a really cool adaptation to see the Covenant POV. The Master Chief story in this is obviously really, really cool. You know, he's pretty much a silent protagonist in the first game, and he's not much different in the novel, right? Like, most of the story you get from his side is all inner monologue, right? The few interactions you get with other people, it doesn't really deviate too much from his character that we've seen in the other novels, and I think it works really, really well. Again, the story of the Marines and like how they get to form a base together, I think is really, really cool. One of the stories that I like, it's like a side story, is we know Private Jenkins is, you know, a Marine who went with Johnson and Keyes to find this secret. Turns out it's the Flood, and the Master Chief watches all of this unfold through his helmet recorder. Well, that story doesn't end there, right? There's way more of a story that continues after that in the novel, and it's really sick. I actually think that's one of my favorite parts of the novel, because it really puts this spin on the Flood that's even more horrifying than it already is. I mean, the Flood's already kind of like a horror aspect of the Halo universe. The novel, like, multiplies it by tenfold, and it's really, really cool. You know, I think overall, this is probably as strong as the first iteration in this series with, you know, The Fall of Reach. I think The Flood is just as strong. I think the only thing that maybe you could take away from it that's, like, not the greatest is, like I said, Master Chief is a silent protagonist in the game. He doesn't really have too much conversation with any of the Marines at all. And then the book, he has a lot more of an interaction. Like, it's still not a lot compared to anybody else, but in general, it's way more than you see on the screen. And sometimes it makes you wonder, is like, why didn't he talk to the Marines or like the higher ups or like those characters, right? Because most of talking is done with Cortana. John does a little bit more in the novel. And I wish I wish that would have been brought into the game. Obviously, that's not how that works, but it does make you kind of wonder, like, oh, I would have liked to see that side of Chief in the game. It would have given him more character development. It's not that big of a gripe, but it's just something that I kind of thought when I was reading it.
Yeah, usually in these books, I like they have multiple different plot lines, and I like to just follow the main one. The other one's kind of like a background. I like, who really cares about what's happening? I don't feel like that's the case in this one. There's like 2 or 3 big plots. You got Master Chief, you got the Grunt and the Elite trying to follow around and assassinate Master Chief, and then you have a little bit of Captain Keyes, which is kind of tied in with Johnson's plot line. But Johnson, I mean, he's cool, he's fun in the game, but in the book, he's kind of a freaking badass. I mean, there's at one point in the book that I remember, they're in a submarine type of vehicle, traveling from one like island on the Halo ring to another, and Johnson sees that there is a elite in the submarine with them, active camo on, and he silently grabs a a Marine's gun and assassinates the guy. That's not spoiling anything, but that's just like, wow. You see the guy, don't panic. You know he's there to kill pretty much every one of you, more likely than not. And he just does it and shrugs it like it's nothing. It's cool as can be. In the game, we see Captain Keyes, and we see he's taken over by the Flood, and it's like, oh gosh, this is horrible. But in the book, you get portions and portions of his mentality, him sitting there repeating his military service number over and over again, trying to keep himself sane, trying to keep the Flood out, that mental battle. And it's not one of those mental battles that you read in books that's just like, yeah, it's boring, get over it. It's really good. It's a great read. I mean, I'm not a huge book reader, but this is a page turner right here.
Yeah. Another aspect that I think is really, really cool is at the end of it, I want to say spoiler alert, but the game's almost 25 years old. When the Halo ring blows up and Cortana's like talking to Chief, like they're all gone, like everything. We had to do this, but they're all gone. And like you kind of get the sense of like there was a lot of devastation, but like as a player, you don't really feel it too much. Like you feel like you just defeated the enemy. Like you shouldn't really feel guilty or sad for anything. But this novel kind of helps, like, there was a lot of life on that Halo ring before it got blown up, right? And the Chief was really one of the few people. Now, First Strike, as we'll get into a review later on, it shows there was a couple people that survived, but overall, there was a lot of life lost after the destruction of the first ring. So that's another aspect that kind of, helps fill in some of those emotional gaps in the game. I think the novel does a really good job of picking those up. And like I often said, the thing with Keyes, and I mentioned Private Jenkins with the Flood, all those story beats were really, really good. Again, I think the best way to describe this is any emotional holes that the game misses, this book does a really good job of filling it and makes you like give it extra sense of overwhelming all kinds of emotions, right? Horror, dread, sadness, revenge, like all these different senses. It does a really good job of filling those. So I really enjoyed this. I don't know if I enjoyed it more than the Flood novel or not, but I would put it pretty much coinciding with it. I don't remember what I gave that. I think I give this one like a 9.5 out of 10, like near perfect.
Yeah, I think I gave that one a 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10, but I think I'll give this one a 9 out of 10. Again, there's really nothing wrong with either of them. They are amazing books. If you enjoy Halo, everyone agrees that you start with these three as the first three books to read. You're not going to be sitting there waiting to read the next stuff. This is the gold. This is the great stuff. These are made 20 years ago, but they are great books.
Yep, I definitely recommend if you're looking to start any Halo novels, you start with this trilogy for sure. So let us know what you guys think down in the comments. You guys liked it and like what you guys thought of our review. If you guys agree, disagree, all of that stuff. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. If you guys are listening on podcast, we big appreciate you. Don't forget to hit that follow and download, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.
They'll need to go through me first.